The cuisine of ancient Rome was both similar and different to that of Italy today. In antiquity, of course, there were absolutely no products that came to us from the New World. No ketchup, no chili peppers, no beans, no potatoes. Beef was barely eaten, and the main and most popular meat dish, like chicken nowadays, was hare. There were more fish in the sea than now, so fish and seafood made up a large part of the menu. Only now Mediterranean oysters are a delicacy, but back then they were quite the everyday food of coastal dwellers. In Rome they grew cabbage, mostly lettuce, not cabbage, peas, carrots, cucumbers. It is known that the Emperor Tiberius was a terrible lover of cucumbers, ordered them to be grown all year round, and never went anywhere without his supply of cucumbers. The Romans started their lunches with boiled eggs and ended with apples, so they even have the expression from egg to apple, that is, from the very beginning to the very end. So the simplest dishes haven't changed at all since then. For example, here's a recipe for fried tuna from an ancient cookbook. Take the tail of tuna, cut it into pieces and fry it completely, season the fish only with salt, drizzle with oil, and dip it in a strong brine. Nothing has changed here. The simplest peasant food since ancient times has been pulses. It was made mainly from wheat or barley flour. Now modern Italians make exactly the same from corn flour and call it polenta. Sometimes this same pulse was dried in the sun and then broken into pieces and boiled. This is where the modern abundance of Italian pasta comes from. The Romans liked bread very much and had over 70 types of bread: yeast bread, yeast-free bread, wheat bread, barley bread, oat bread, and rye bread. They were the first to think of adding raisins, dried fruits, olives, pieces of sausage, meat, and nuts to the bread dough. So when you buy a ciabatta with olives at the store, you're also eating quite the ancient Roman dish. But that's all simple, vernacular cuisine. But what about the high cuisine of the ancient Roman nobility? Have any of the Roman recipes survived to this day? We know the Roman culinary. It was written in the 1st century AD by the famous rich man and gourmet, Gavius Apicius. He was famous as an inventor of new dishes. For example, it is believed that he invented blood sausage. The dishes he describes are difficult to replicate because they all necessarily use the famous Roman garum sauce, which has not survived to this day. It was made from fermented fish. Nowadays, such sauces are used in Oriental cuisines, but once it was a mainstay of Roman cooking. However, we can repeat another Roman sauce that had no name, or rather, there were many names, depending on the composition of the herbs. It was also offered as a sauce for most dishes. It was a mixture of herbs, root of mint, lovage, celery, dill, and parsley in various combinations, ground into a paste and diluted with olive oil, vinegar, or wine, and honey. What's not a pesto sauce? High cuisine was complex and exotic. The Romans could cook sausages and pâtés, pork nipples and nightingale tongues, sea urchins and liver sausages. But all this was stuffed with roughly the same set of herbs, drizzled with wine, vinegar, garum, and honey, and was probably unpalatable to modern tastes. There are many adaptations of Apicius recipes for modern tastes on the web. There is, however, an exception here as well. The most common way of cooking meat in antiquity was double. First boil it, and then roast it. From our point of view, this is overkill, which only deprives meat of any flavor. However, French cooks at the end of the 20th century tried to repeat one of the recipes described by Apicius. It is precisely boiled and then roasted duck with herbs. Since then, Roman duck, or Apicius duck, is on the menu of many restaurants, and you can cook it yourself.